Week what you saw is some animations that we showed for the enter and the exits of the ships. For the upcoming milestones, what we're working on is taking all that motion capture that we shot about a month ago and we told you about previously, and we're getting that into each of those ships. And the first ships that you're going to start seeing that on are the Hornet, and the Super Hornet, and the Freelancer. So for the persistent universe, we're also working on life animations, things such as behind the bar, at a booth, sitting in chairs, leaning against walls, various things within the persistent universe that are going to give the whole thing life, just on the planets in general, and things like that.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Reverse the Verse. We're changing things up a little bit, so I want to explain a few things. First, my name is Eric Kyron Davis. I am the senior producer for the Los Angeles studios, and I'm joined by our animation director, Mr. Steve Bender. Say hello.
Hi guys.
So we're trying something a little new this week, and you'll start seeing this every week going forward. So you saw the Around the Verse yesterday. We're trying stuff a little different. This week was the Los Angeles studios, so Reverse the Verse will be in Los Angeles. And what we'd like to focus on are the topics that we talked about in Around the Verse. But before we get started, I want to thank the subscribers. Without you, we couldn't do this. So this content's for you. Before we really get going on the questions for Steve, I want to remind you that we're going to be looking for questions in the general chat on our website. If you haven't done this before, it's on robertspaceindustriescom/community/chat. Now, I'll be pulling questions that are highlighted by the subject question. So make sure you have question in there. I'll be watching it while Steve answers questions. But we'd like to focus first on that video we just saw. That video has a lot of good information about the persistent universe, about ship enter and exits. And before we really start getting questions, because I know they'll start flooding in now that we're live, but the first question I want to ask you about was, could you go in a little bit more about that persistent universe animation? Like, what is that? What do those life animations really mean for us? What do you expect to see from those kind of in the coming months and weeks, and just as the persistent universe grows?
Yeah, the goal in general for the persistent universe, we want you to be able to feel like, as you've gotten into your ship, as you've landed on the planets, and you've roamed around, that you're actually in that world. So you're going to start seeing things like, as you go into the nightclubs or the bars, you're going to start seeing things that are common in those things. People eating at a booth, people drinking at a booth, ordering drinks, bartenders doing things, waitresses doing things. There's going to be different levels of energy of those animations as well, right? So we don't want everything jumping around and bouncing around like Sonic the Hedgehog or something like this. But what we want is this illusion of life for all of our characters, right? And we want you, as you go into the bar, if it's, say it's in the middle of the day, perhaps the animations that are being played are more subdued. And as the night goes on, people start to drink a little bit more. You know, there starts to be a little bit more dancing going on.
You have a lot of experience in that, see?
And yeah. You know, I used to teach salsa dancing, actually.
Perfect. So salsa dancing confirmed.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good, nice. Yeah, I knew that was coming.
And so characters getting a bit more intoxicated and things like this happening, so that it's the world itself lives and breathes, and we show that through the animation.
Sure. And so the animation, subsumption, AI, we've talked a lot about these things, right? That should drive it. So that's how your team's working right now? They're waiting for that system to come?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you expect that to happen in the game, right? What animations do you expect to see react, and how will they react, and are you planning for that as far as how animation, I don't know, just lines up generally? Again, like you're saying, you're in a bar, and how do those things map out in your head, right? Like, as the night goes on, things change, or is it just everything's the same all the time?
No, they should change. Now, a lot of this comes down to how the AI programmers and the AI designers execute those sorts of things. But from an animation standpoint, we'll have characters that when they come in, let's say if we use the bartender as an example, they'll come in, they'll sit down at the stool, and they'll order a drink. Then there's sets of animations that functionally do the same thing, but they do them in a different way. So one character comes down and he sits down and he orders a drink. And you'll have characters who aren't intoxicated, and they'll be sitting there with their drink, and other ones that are just...
The Steve Bender, we call that.
But yeah, it's, you know, it's normally what I'm like about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So
that's right. So we've got some good questions starting to come in for you. I really like this question a lot for I think regarding just some of the ship enter and exits. Can we speed up, slow down our ship entry and exits while we are already doing those animations? This is from Piet11111. A lot of ones.
The answer is kind of yes and kind of no. So the goal eventually with the enter exit, so as you might recall from when we showed you guys the ship enter exit updates in I think it was about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we intend that the current one, I call it Grandpa Goes to the Store, which is in the Hornet, is somewhere, I think, in the realm of 8 seconds faster. So he gets in at quite a pace. And you can also, eventually, you'll be able to utilize your walk modifier, and your character will climb into the ship in more of a relaxed sort of pace, still faster than Grandpa Goes to the Store.
Right.
And with a shift modifier, he would then get in there in an emergency way. Same thing with getting out. So say your ship's about to explode, and you know, at the moment you exit the Hornet, and I'm gonna get out of the ship, and boom, it blows up, right? You got a problem.
Sure.
So with where we're going with this, when you hold the shift, the sprint modifier, and you get out, your character would execute an emergency exit. In some cases, these are actual leaps from the seat of the ship.
Awesome.
Now, as far as whether you can execute a change in the animation that is playing, say I hit the F key to enter the Hornet, and then as I'm playing the enter animation, I then hold the shift key, the sprint modifier, in hopes of it going emergency enter. At the moment, there's no piece of technology that allows us to do that. It doesn't mean it's not possible, but if you think of the way that characters connect to the ship, right? So we have to climb up, we climb this railing, so I'm gonna go left, right, left, right, left, right, climb in. On the emergency, because he's leaping quite a distance to get up onto that ladder in the first place, he may not be left here where he needs to go left, right, left, right. He's going to be on offhand. So I don't know how that would function. The first thing is getting those 3 speeds in.
Sure.
So from both an animation standpoint, we're starting right now on, we're focusing rather on the combat speeds, because that's the one that players are using most of the time. And then we'll move on to the other 2. And then once those are implemented, then we can see, okay, well, what happens if we try and allow you to modify that input during this portion of the animation?
Sure, that makes sense. So we've got a lot of other good questions coming in. One person said, from your Twitter, who let the dogs out?
I let the dogs out.
I'm just kidding. We're not answering that question. But I do want to remind everybody that on these questions, we won't be answering any one questions, no date questions in this one, as much as we'd like to. And a reminder, coming up right after Steve, we have the lead ship artist from LA, Elwin Batchelor Jr., to focus on the Reliant, maybe talk a little Caterpillar. So I see some questions coming in, so we'll do those shortly. Another really good, interesting question I had come in here was right now, and this may not be perfect for you, but I think it's something you could answer. Right now, the player's head is entirely fixed to the animation on ship enter and exits. right? So in your first person. Will at some point you be able to look around while climbing the ship, giving that freedom? That's somewhat of an animation question, but at the same time it's kind of an engineering question.
It's a design question, actually. So the answer from an animation standpoint is there's no reason why look poses could not be executed on those enter exits.
Sure.
This is especially, I think, important for players who want to play in, say, VR or something like this, so that they can look around. And we should be able to, or we need to be able to support that. So once we get in, it's this step-by-step sort of thing. I want to get the combat enters feeling good, so that this isn't like, every time I get in the ship, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to get in that ship again. So that it feels good to get into the ship, and then we go, okay, well, now I'm climbing into the ship. I want to give some freedom of movement so that, if someone's shooting at me, I can go, I can see them.
Yeah.
So once we have that in, we can execute those look poses to give you more freedom to do
Awesome. Okay, we're running low on time. Time goes by so fast when we have our wonderful friend Steve Bender here. A good question I saw here was talking a little bit about let me find it again, about what we saw in the life animations, the PU life animations. So are players able to do those animations like, drink a drink, lean against the wall, etc.? Are we expecting that to be a player animation or only our NPCs?
Oh no, from an animation standpoint, as you guys know, we're doing a lot of things where the third person animation and the first person animation are very closely tied together. So there's nothing that stops us from, if you want your character to be a junkie, we actually have idle animations for a junkie leaning up against a wall, hey man, and things like this. There's nothing within the animation system and the animation design that says you couldn't do that. It's more of a high level design question and how you would give allow your character to execute that. And that falls into things that we're doing with the different emotes, with the different dancing and things like that, so that your character, say if I'm a Navy pilot, I'm gonna salute like this. Whereas if I'm a Army Ranger, a British Army Ranger, perhaps I'm gonna salute with my hand facing forward. And that's up to you and who your character is and how you, you wanna role play.
Sure, that makes sense. And that question, I forgot to mention, was from Olaf Bode. I want to mention that.
Good question, Olaf.
Another one from Mitauchi. Good job. Can we interrupt some of the social animations, like entering a room, sitting in a bar, or while they remain in a state where they were locked into animation, much like entering and exiting a ship? Again, kind of a design question, but I don't know if you had any perspective on your planned animations. Is it something that you, I'm going to kind of elaborate on this, you as an animation director want to see all the way out, very proud of those performances, or for gameplay, right, would you be okay with it being interrupted, or will it be interrupted?
Ultimately, gameplay always wins. What we want is to be able to have really great looking animations, and they're fluid and they're fun and everything like this. But if you can't get out of them, it can be brutally exhausting. This is why we're doing the combat animations for the ships, because it was just like, all the backers and us internally were just like, oh my God, how long does this take to get into the ship? So there's nothing that stops that. So if we're playing, say, a sit in chair animation, and it takes 1 second or a second and a half, perhaps we can or cannot give that ability. It really is just within the engine, it's like a flag that allows us to leave an animation or not leave an animation. But that being said, when you're constantly allowing people to pop in, pop out, pop in, pop out of things, and you don't have good animated solutions for how to leave them, the thing can look very gamey. So it's a fine balance between those.
Totally. Well, sadly, I think we are out of time with our animation director, Steve Bender. I could just talk to you for hours.
I'm not
and
leaving.
Days. I guess he's staying forever. We're going to show you a quick, short Reliant video from the Around the Verse yesterday, and then up next is our lead ship artist from LA, Elwin Batcher Jr. So stay with us. Thanks, Steve.
I'm not going anywhere, really.
2.5 is right around the corner. One of the exciting things is going to be the Reliant being flight ready. Now, Dave Hobbins actually hooked us up with some really awesome concept art, and then the team around the world has been making this ship come to life. Now, the interesting thing about this ship is it's Xeon technology influence, right? And we've only seen one other ship before that's in Xeon, and everyone knows that's the Scout. So, you know, these ships are multi-state, they're transforming, they're unique, they're different, they fly different.
So the Reliant is a ship that I was really excited to get my hands on because I think Hobbins did a great job with the design, and I think the flight mode was pretty interesting as well. So my team here in LA, we did a lot of the heavy lifting on the modeling and a lot of the preliminary animations. And of course, we had teams all around the world touching it, in Austin doing animations, and in the UK doing textures for the materials. So we brought it all together here. One really cool detail about the Reliant, which some people might not notice, is, I mean, obviously it has a vertical flight mode, but because of the vertical flight mode, the engines have reverse thrusts on the front side of them that act as retro thrusts to slow the ship down. When it's in horizontal mode, the front of those engines are covered up. So in order to achieve retro thrust, we have a shunting system that takes the thrusts and redirects it to the front of the wings, where we open up flaps that function as retro thrust as well. So look out for those, those are pretty cool.
You know, leading up to this point, I'd been working on refactor for tuning for all the ships, and so I was able to work in the ability to support multiple flight states for our ships, and we've used that for the Reliant. And now that we have that, we should that'll open us up to do a lot of other ships with multiple flight states as well.
When you're coming in for a landing, doing really close precision flight, you'll be flying that in the horizontal mode of the ship. And then when you've taken off cleanly from a landing pad, then you'll hit your landing toggle, go into the vertical mode, and you'll have the full performance of the ship available to you. So what this actually is going to mean is we have our precision, our SCM, and our cruise modes. So when you're in the horizontal mode, you're going to be locked into precision. You don't get to go the top speed of the ship, and it's very constrained in what you're going to be able to do movement-wise. And we've also made sure that you aren't going to accidentally, like pitch forward too quick and flip onto the roof of your ship and blow up, because that's just not fun. So you'll take off, and then you'll hit N, which is our new default key for toggling the landing mode. And then from there, you'll go into your full flight mode, where you'll have the full performance of the ship, your full SCM cruise speed, be able to go into quantum travel. Now, there is one thing that we did have to restrict a little bit while you're in the flight mode, and that's actually getting in or out of the pilot or co-pilot seats. So just because of the space of the Reliant cockpit, it's really tight in there when it's transformed. And so you will have to go into your landing mode before either the pilot or the co-pilot can get out of the seats. It may be something that we can expand on in the future, but for right now, it's just how we were able to get the ship flying while also having these transformational elements. Also into the future, we're definitely hoping to get it set up where the horizontal mode can be a full speed capable mode of travel, but we wanted to make sure we were at least delivering, hey, you've got this toggling transition state for the flight ready, even if one of the modes you don't get to have that full speed potential. So really looking forward to you guys getting your hands on this ship in the coming patch.
We're really proud of the Reliant and the hard work that everyone at CIG has put into it. We cannot wait to see what you guys think of it, as well as we can't wait to see you guys out there flying it around. So hope you guys like it as much as we loved making it.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Reverse the Verse. We have our next special guest from the Los Angeles studio, Mr. Elwin Batcher Jr., our lead ship artist.
Howdy.
Yeah, I was going to say hello, but you've already said hello. So please get your questions going. To kind of start us off, I wanted Elwin to tell us a little bit He talks about it a little bit in the video, but I don't think we really go in depth about why he was excited about the Reliant. You talked a little bit about it, but I remember when we first started this, that was the ship that Alwyn's like, if I don't do this ship, pitchforks and fireworks, right?
It was a little bit like that.
So tell me a little bit more about why that ship excited you just so much, right? Beyond what we saw in that video.
So one, I just love the way it looks. I think it's a really cool, sort of unique ship. And overall, I've liked all of Hobbins' designs to begin with. So I liked the Gladiator, which is an anvil ship. That's a really cool ship.
Yeah.
He designed that one as well. So I like his aesthetic. I like the way he designs his ships. So from the way it looks, step one, I really enjoyed it. Two, I really like the opportunity of being able to work on something that transforms. Because when I model, I tend to spend a lot of time making sure that the animations are all going to work properly. So I'll go ahead and do mock animations, and that's how I essentially start. So I'm animating and modeling at the same time. It's part of what I really enjoy about specifically doing this type of work. So I saw that as an opportunity of being able to enjoy my work even more.
Yeah, this is a good question. I really like it. I'm gonna tweak it a little bit. Zasek Dreadmort, he starts talking about the Reliant variants. So this is a specific design question, but for you as an artist, right? You know this ship has variants, right?
Oh, yeah, I am aware.
What kind of considerations did you take while developing this first one, this base one for the Reliant?
In terms of how it will now affect the
You got it, yeah,
variants.
exactly.
So the way really what that comes down to for us is building the interior of the ship in such a way that we can sort of swap out easily the interior spaces. So if you'll notice on the Reliant, you basically have a cargo area which has a little bit of a hallway and then a door that closes off.
Sure.
And so that allows us to just swap out the entire back.
Great.
To whatever variant we want, so we can come up with any kind of crazy idea and then just fill in that space.
Sure.
And the whole back area, the exterior, is also detachable. So if we really want to go crazy and do something that breaks out of those bounds, then it'll be more work, but it's technically doable.
That's great. So we were thinking about that, obviously, building the
course,
ship.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but from the concepts, Hobbins had already done a few variants.
He did, yep.
To
and you kind of thought through those ideas at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. So we basically kind of have an idea of what we need to accommodate for with our initial design, and the idea is the initial build of the ship should accommodate what we want to do with all the variants. It reduces the workload and allows us to get stuff out faster.
Yeah, for sure. This is a great question from Kudos. What was the most challenging aspect of building Reliant? Like what, we talked about Hobbins fleshing out the idea of the variants. You were obviously in those conversations. I remember you were very active in all that.
Yeah.
But what was the challenging thing that you had for this ship?
I think that for modeling specifically, the biggest thing that we had to work around is the height space inside of the ship.
Yeah, sure.
So we ran into an issue where with the original concept, if we built it exactly as it came in, the player wouldn't have enough space to actually walk into the cockpit without having to crouch. And so that was kind of a problem. That meant we had to make some design changes on the fly while building the ship to accommodate for it. And the final version of it is a little bit thicker, but we did it in such a way that hopefully people don't notice that it's that much different. But that was the biggest challenge, I think.
What I loved about that one is I remember we had that conversation. We were talking about, okay, that's going to shift the schedule this way. We've got to make this adjustment. What I also love about the process, this creation process, is the now Reliant. I don't even think about the old one, right? You can, when you walk through this process, you kind of fall in love with parts that you kill your darlings along the way because it was a great idea, but in execution it didn't come to fruition as much as you'd like. And that's really interesting, right? I think that's one of the things I love about game development is things change and adjust for the better, generally in the long run, if you got the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant work in progress. I would say that also one of the other challenges as a whole for the entire team, not just modeling, is the rotating of the seats and the rotating of the cockpit. Just that whole mechanism was a really big challenge for the team as a whole because it's unique specifically to this ship. And we try to build things as modularly as possible so we can apply it to as many assets as possible. So anything on a ship that's very unique to that ship is always going to present a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of our multi-state ships right now coming on at the Shan Scout.
I think it's the first, right?
The Scout was technically the first.
That is
we've got more work on.
That is true.
But that is a unique challenge. We've got John Pritchett in-house right now, and as our flight physics engineer, he's working a lot on actively looking at how to make that legit within the game, that we can start putting as many multi-state ships as we can in, so it's and just they work perfectly. They work as we intended, they work as you modeled them, they work as we animated them, without much back end magic,
right.
as much back-end magic as you need. Because, you know, what people don't realize with ships that move like that versus just the steady state, they don't do anything. There's quite a bit of engineering work that goes into that.
Oh, yeah.
And we need to engage, I know John early on, and the engineering team were going, hey, it's going to move like this. We'd obviously talk about it in concept, but it's interesting when it, you know, goes, okay, now we got to really put that in. How does that really work? How does that work with the whole system? That's a pretty big one.
How do you make it happen? And also, any transforming ship also affects the physics entirely.
That's right.
That's why, you know, John's super important to the process.
That's right. So we're running low on time already. Jeez Louise. But let's shift a little bit to the Caterpillar. I'd love for you guys to start throwing Caterpillar questions if you had them, since we have the man help driving the team here with the Caterpillar team. What's interesting about that ship? What do you've enjoyed about making that ship so far?
Oh man, all kinds of stuff is interesting about that ship. It's one of the most modular ships I think that we'll be getting out within this time period. Half the ship is literally swappable. It won't be when it first comes out because we still have to make the other modules, but the intention is that you can just grab half to 50% of the ship almost and be like, boom, this is gone, I'm throwing something else in place. The command module detaches. You've got a tractor beam operator on the other side. I think it can, to be fully operational, you might need up to like 8 people or something like that.
Yep.
So I think it's really, really cool because it's a Constellation or Retaliator sized ship that, depending on how you kit it out, will behave like a capital ship because it can carry so many small ships inside of it.
That's great.
Those being the Dragonflies.
Sure.
So I think for me, one of the most exciting things about it is just being able to fill it with Dragonflies and just let them all buzz out.
Sure.
It's going to look like a small capital ship flying around, yeah.
Were there any modeling challenges you had in creating this size ship versus, because this is the first big ship we've really created in LA. Obviously the ship team is a global team and Nathan's driving that and you guys are working really closely together as much as we can across thousands of miles. But this is the first big ship for our team here with Daniel and Jen. And how have the challenges been for that Caterpillar?
Well, I mean, the biggest challenge is just the volume of content. The Caterpillar has 14 spaces in it. I mean, I'm including hallways and staircases and things like that, but they're all spaces that have to be built. And so, you know, going from something like a Reliant, which has 2 tiny little spaces, to a Caterpillar, which has a massive spaces and many spaces.
Sure.
It just comes down to just the volume of content we have to produce. It's insane. So.
It's the amount. It's a mass.
Yeah, that's the biggest. It's the biggest challenge for us is time.
How many little ships are created with all the work you put in the Caterpillar? That's the real question. Right? How many little ships is it in poly count? Really?
I think you can. Oh wow, in poly count?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even want to talk about that.
a lot of little ships. But that's the exciting thing about the Caterpillar, I think, is the size. That's really good.
I'll give you a number. Probably 3.
3 little ships.
Probably 3 little
for the price
ships
of one big
for the price
ship.
of one Caterpillar. Yeah.
I'm just modeling, obviously.
Yeah.
Somebody asked a question about we've gotten a lot of design questions, which I would love to answer those, but this is our ship artist. But working with design, right, on some of the hard points, some of the actual interactions that design has, how's that conversation been going? How's that dialogue been going with design?
It's been great. I mean, we've worked with them from the very beginning to do sort of a block out of the ship. So at the very beginning, the first thing we did was block it out, make sure all the spaces felt, you know, kind of right, and for gameplay reasons. And then once that was set, we went in there, did a tiny little bit of lighting pass, and then used that to move it over to the concept artist, who started doing amazing work fleshing that ship out.
Sure.
And then that guy sent it to us, and we built it out. But the interaction specifically with design has been great. I mean, what tends to happen with us building some of these ships is design will have a really cool idea, and we'll go ahead and try and the first implementation of that and be like, yeah, this is not going to work.
Yeah,
design,
sure.
like maybe we should go in this direction instead. One example would be the original Caterpillar had ramps on the sides of the cargo modules, but in order to stick with the restrictions in our game metrics, that would mean that the ramp would have to go out about 13 meters, which is ridiculous. There's no, you're not storing that anywhere.
Sure.
So that forced us to sort of move in a direction where the walls come down as elevators instead, so we don't have to deal with that. So that's just one example of the changes we had to make, and that happens in almost every room.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's about it. We're out of time with Elwin. Sadly, it's already time to end, but we really appreciate you joining us. I don't know if you guys saw it on our recent ATV, but we had a new logo created, and that logo was created by Hannes. We're going to show you that here real quick, and then Jared's going to join me for the wrap-up, and then that will be it, sadly. So thank you, Elwin, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Welcome back. Mr. Huckabee joined me. Thank you for that speedy entrance.
That was a fast, quick change.
Yeah, so we wanted Jared to come in and kind of give us a quick update on community and what this week looked like, and Big Benny. Let's talk a little about Big Benny.
Basically, we got a couple things going on sale this weekend, guys. After our Big Benny t-shirt sale that went off incredibly well, we've decided to add additional sizes. You can buy sizes, the mediums and the smalls that weren't available before. Those will go on sale today at noon, so in about 30 minutes. That will be available to subscribers first. Subscribers will be able to buy the shirt and get the patch that comes along with it, and then we'll open to everybody on Monday. So if you haven't gotten your Big Benny shirt and you were looking for a smaller size, those will be available to everybody on Monday.
There you go.
Also,
Yeah.
Gamescom. We've decided to do the Gamescom party. So we've heard you. We've got some stuff to show you. So we're doing the Gamescom party. Those tickets go on sale in 30 minutes as well. First to concierge members. So if you have concierge status, that comm link will go up in about 30 minutes. Everybody can read it, so you can all see all the details and whatnot. Tickets will be available to concierge today. Then tomorrow at noon Pacific, it will open up to subscribers. So subscribers will be able to buy tickets. And then on Sunday at noon, it will open up to everybody. So everybody will have a chance to buy some tickets, and we're holding some stock over for every group, so everybody will have a chance. But noon Pacific, today, tomorrow, and Sunday, you can get your Gamescom tickets. And that's Friday, August 19th. It is separate from the Gamescom event. You do not need a ticket to the Gamescom event to come visit our party. And with that,
And I think that's it, but that's all on the website.
That's
right?
all on the
We've
website.
got it all broken down on the website.
RobertSpaceIndustries.com.
If you couldn't write fast enough, it's all on the website. Awesome. Well, again, thank you to the subscribers. Thank you so much to all of our guests. Thanks for Disco. We can't do this without Disco. If you guys like this format, please let us know. Please leave us comments. You know a million ways to interact with us, so please reach out to us on Twitter and on YouTube and on Reddit and all of our websites, all the places that you can talk to us. Don't hesitate.
And we'll be rotating the show along with ATV. So next week's ATV that emanates from UK, next week's Reverse the Verse will also emanate from the UK. It won't look quite like this. We don't have this setup going in the UK, but not yet. That's because of you subscribers that we can do this.
Yeah.
So if you like the improvements that have been going on with Around the Verse and with Reverse the Verse lately, please consider subscribing. It's what enables us to do all this stuff.
That's right. And with that, have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys next time.